Niccolò Machiavelli, the Renaissance thinker born in Florence, Italy, whose name has become synonymous with strategic thinking and political pragmatism. Machiavelli's seminal work, The Prince, is a timeless guide to the art of statecraft, revealing the raw truths of power and leadership. Join us till the end as we unveil his rules on obtaining power and influencing people. Any man who tries to be good all the time is bound to come to ruin among the great number who are not good. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot protect himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. It is better to act and repent than not to act and regret. A prudent man should always follow in the path trodden by great men and imitate those who are most excellent, so that if he does not attain to their greatness, at any rate, he will get some tinge of it. Men judge more from appearances than reality. All men have eyes, but few have the gift of penetration. Everyone sees your exterior, but few can discern what you have in your heart. Wisdom consists of knowing how to distinguish the nature of trouble and choosing the lesser evil. Make mistakes of ambition and not mistakes of sloth. Develop the strength to do bold things, not the strength to suffer. A battle that you win cancels any other bad action of yours. In the same way, by losing one, all the good things worked by you before become vain. He who is highly esteemed is not easily conspired against. He who shuns women passes up the trouble but also the benefits. He who puts up with them gains the benefits but also the trouble. As the saying goes, there's no honey without bees. Everyone who wants to know what will happen ought to examine what has happened. Everything in this world, in any epoch, has their replicas in antiquity. If your friend does not know all the chess rules, it is wise to deceive him and come up with nonsense rules, unless you should try to be good to him, and he will learn the game and overcome you. The vulgar crowd always is taken by appearances, and the world consists chiefly of the vulgar. There's no other way to guard yourself against flattery than by making men understand that telling you the truth will not offend you. There's nothing as likely to succeed as what the enemy believes you cannot attempt. Never let others interrupt you, because you will lose respect. Beware of a man who interrupts you because he is trying to show you strength. Men will always deceive you unless they are kept honest by constraint. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. If an injury has to be done to a man, it should be so severe that his vengeance need not be feared. It is double pleasure to deceive the deceiver. It is not titles that honor men, but men that honor titles. Men that should be either treated generously or destroyed, because they take revenge for slight injuries. For heavy ones, they cannot. There is no avoiding war. It can only be postponed to the advantage of others. The wish to acquire more is admittedly a very natural and common thing, and when men succeed in this, they are always praised rather than condemned. But when they lack the ability to do so and yet want to acquire more at all costs, they deserve condemnation for their mistakes. Politics have no relation to morals. There is nothing more difficult to take in hand, more perilous to conduct, or more uncertain in its success than to take the lead in the introduction of a new order of things. The wise man does at once what the fool does finally. The main foundations of every state, new states as well as ancient or composite ones, are good laws and good arms. You cannot have good laws without good arms, and where there are good arms, good laws inevitably follow. He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. The distinction between children and adults, while probably useful for some purposes, is at bottom a specious one, I feel. There are only individual egos, crazy for love. Never was anything great achieved without danger. The promise given was a necessity of the past. The word broken is a necessity of the present. One who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. The more sand has escaped from the hourglass of our life, the clearer we should see through it. I'm not interested in preserving the status quo. I want to overthrow it. The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. Men ought either to be indulged or utterly destroyed, for if you merely offend them, they take vengeance, but if you injure them greatly, they are unable to retaliate, so that the injury done to a man ought to be such that vengeance cannot be feared. Severities should be dealt out all at once, so that their suddenness may give less offense. Benefits ought to be handed out drop by drop, so that they may be relished the more. Men are so simple and so much inclined to obey immediate needs that a deceiver will never lack victims for his deceptions. Where the willingness is great, the difficulties cannot be great. When you disarm the people, you commence to offend them and show that you distrust them, either through cowardice or lack of confidence, and both of these opinions generate hatred. The one who adapts his policy to the times prospers, and likewise that the one whose policy clashes with the demands of the times does not. God is not willing to do everything and thus take away our free will and that share of glory which belongs to us. There are three kinds of intelligence. One kind understands things for itself, the other appreciates what others can understand, the third understands neither for itself nor through others. This first kind is excellent, the second good, and the third kind useless. Of mankind, we may say in general they are fickle, hypocritical, and greedy of gain. Whosoever desires constant success must change his conduct with the times. A son can bear with equanimity the loss of his father, but the loss of his inheritance may drive him to despair. Hence it comes about that all armed prophets have been victorious, and all unarmed prophets have been destroyed. There is no surer sign of decay in a country than to see the rights of religion held in contempt. Tardiness often robs us opportunity and the dispatch of our forces. Men rise from one ambition to another. First, they seek to secure themselves against attack, and then they attack others. It is necessary for him who lays out a state and arranges laws for it to presuppose that all men are evil, and that they are always going to act according to the wickedness of their spirits, whenever they have free scope. No enterprise is more likely to succeed than one concealed from the enemy until it is ripe for execution. War should be the only study of a prince. He should consider peace only as a breathing time, which gives him leisure to contrive, and furnishes his ability to execute military plans. Whoever conquers a free town and does not demolish it commits a great error and may expect to be ruined himself. A prince never lacks legitimate reasons to break his promise. To understand the nature of the people, one must be a prince, and to understand the nature of the prince, one must be of the people. War is just when it is necessary. Arms are permissible when there is no hope except in arms. The new ruler must determine all the injuries that he will need to inflict. He must inflict them once and for all. Since love and fear can hardly exist together if we must choose between them, it is much more secure to be feared than to be loved. Benefits should be conferred gradually, and in that way they will taste better. A wise ruler ought never to keep faith, when by doing so it would be against his interests. The fact is that a man who wants to act virtuously in every way necessarily comes to grief among so many who are not virtuous. Men shrink less from offending one who inspires love than one who inspires fear. We cannot attribute to fortune or virtue that which is achieved without either. A return to first principles in a republic is sometimes caused by the simple virtues of one man. His good example has such an influence that the good men strive to imitate him, and the wicked are ashamed to lead a life so contrary to his example. Princes and governments are far more dangerous than other elements within society.